That golden, stretchy cheese pull in the commercial? On several of America's best-selling frozen pizzas, it's not fully real cheese. Food manufacturers have a legal category called imitation cheese, or cheese substitute blend, made from vegetable oil, starch, and flavoring designed to melt and stretch better than real mozzarella, for a fraction of the cost. Today, we're ranking 8 popular frozen pizza brands that cut corners on cheese, sodium, and ingredients, then showing you the 3 brands that actually use real dairy. Number 1 might be sitting in your freezer right now. Frozen pizza is one of the most convenient dinners in America. 20 minutes, 1 pan, done. But convenience food runs on cost cutting, and cheese is one of the most expensive ingredients on a pizza. That's exactly why the frozen aisle is full of cheese blends instead of straight mozzarella, and why sodium counts on some of these boxes rival an entire day's recommended limit in just 2 or 3 slices. We reviewed ingredient labels, USDA nutrition data, and food industry reporting to find out which brands are honest about what's on your pizza, and which ones are working around the word cheese entirely. Let's start with the most recognizable name in the freezer aisle. Number 8, Totino's Party Pizza. Totino's built its identity on being the cheap, fast option, a whole pizza for the price of a candy bar, a staple of late-night snacking and college dorm freezers for decades. But that price comes from somewhere. The topping is labeled imitation mozzarella cheese, a blend built with vegetable oil, whey, and modified food starch rather than actual cultured mozzarella. It also carries some of the highest sodium per calorie ratios in the category, with a full pie easily pushing past 2,000 milligrams of sodium, close to the entire daily limit the American Heart Association recommends. The takeaway: at this price point, you're paying for volume and speed, not dairy. Next, a brand with a wood-fired, artisan-style image that doesn't quite match its ingredient list. Number 7, Red Baron Classic Crust. Red Baron leans on a bold, adventurous brand image, the flying ace, the classic Americana packaging, to feel more premium than a basic supermarket pizza. The pepperoni and sausage versions carry real meat, but the cheese topping on several varieties is listed as a mozzarella cheese blend that includes modified cornstarch and vegetable oil alongside real cheese, a common industry technique to stretch cheese content further while keeping the product cheaper to produce. A single serving, which is typically a third of the pizza, carries around 700 to 800 milligrams of sodium, meaning eating half the pizza puts you well over 1,000 milligrams before dinner is finished. The lesson? Classic branding doesn't guarantee a classic ingredient list. Coming up, a supermarket brand's private label pizza that quietly cuts corners nobody checks. Number 6, Great Value Supreme Pizza. Walmart's in-house brand exists to undercut name brands on price, and shoppers buy it specifically because it looks nearly identical to pricier options for less money. The trade-off shows up in the ingredient list. The cheese topping is a pizza cheese blend rather than 100% mozzarella, meaning it's cut with fillers to reduce cost while maintaining melt. The vegetable toppings are also processed and frozen well before packaging, losing some texture and flavor compared to fresh produce. Consumer review aggregators consistently rate store-brand frozen pizzas lower on taste and topping quality than name brands, even when nutrition numbers look similar. The takeaway: the savings are real, but so is the quality gap. Next, a brand marketed specifically as the better-for-you frozen pizza, with a catch buried in the fine print. Number 5, DiGiorno Rising Crust. DiGiorno's entire marketing campaign for over 2 decades has centered on one line: it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno, positioning itself as restaurant quality, made with real ingredients. The cheese here is closer to genuine mozzarella than the budget brands, which is a point in its favor. But the rising crust technology that made the brand famous requires a heavier dough formula, loaded with additional sodium and preservatives to help it bake evenly from frozen. A full pizza can carry over 2,500 milligrams of sodium across the whole pie, and the thick crust makes portion control difficult. Most people eat more crust-heavy slices than they realize. The takeaway: better cheese, but the crust technology comes with a sodium trade-off. We're near the halfway point. If your go-to Friday night pizza has already shown up on this list, Let us know in the comments. You're definitely not alone. Number 4. Tombstone Original. Tombstone markets itself around a rugged, no-frills identity. Simple, hearty, filling. That simplicity is part of the appeal for shoppers who don't want a fancy pizza, just dinner. But original doesn't mean basic ingredients. The cheese topping is listed as a mozzarella and cheddar blend fortified with modified food starch, and the pepperoni contains sodium nitrite as a curing agent, a preservative also found in processed deli meats that the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified processed meat containing nitrites as a Group 1 carcinogen when consumed regularly over time. This doesn't mean occasional pizza night is dangerous, but frequent consumption of processed, nitrite-cured meats is a documented concern nutrition researchers track closely. Next, a rising star in the healthier frozen pizza space that isn't as clean as its marketing suggests. Number 3. California Pizza Kitchen Crispy Thin Crust. CPK built its frozen line around the restaurant chain's upscale reputation, appealing to shoppers who want something that feels more elevated than a standard supermarket pizza. Several varieties do use real, named cheeses rather than generic blends, which puts it ahead of the budget brands on this list. But the crispy thin crust formula relies on higher fat content to achieve that texture from frozen, and specialty varieties like BBQ chicken carry significant added sugar in the sauce. Some varieties exceeding 8 grams of sugar per serving, more than you'd expect from a savory pizza. The takeaway: better cheese quality, but check the sauce before assuming restaurant style means low sugar. 2 spots left before the worst offender on this list, and the next one is aimed directly at parents shopping for kids. Number 2. Freschetta, naturally rising crust. Freschetta markets its crust as more natural, using slower fermentation to build flavor without as many chemical leavening agents. And on that specific claim, the brand generally delivers a cleaner crust ingredient list than most competitors. The issue is the cheese blend, which despite the brand's natural positioning, still includes modified starch and stabilizers on several varieties to control melt and stretch during the extended freezer shelf life these products require. A serving carries a moderate 480 to 600 milligrams of sodium, better than most brands on this list. But the overall natural branding creates an impression of a fully clean product that the cheese ingredients don't fully back up. The takeaway: read past the front-of-box claim to the actual cheese ingredient line. And now, the brand that tops this list. Not because it's the unhealthiest choice nutritionally, but because of how far its cheese has drifted from the word on the label. Number 1. Jack's Original Frozen Pizza. Jack's has been a Midwest freezer staple for generations, built on a straightforward, no-nonsense image and a low price point that's barely moved in decades. That consistency is exactly the problem. To hold that price point across rising dairy costs, the topping listed on several varieties is a cheese-flavored topping or pasteurized processed cheese food, categories that legally require even less real cheese content than the imitation mozzarella used by brands like Totino's. Combined with a thin, heavily processed crust and sodium levels that regularly exceed 700 milligrams per slice, Jack's earns the top spot for selling itself as a classic simple pizza while using one of the most diluted cheese formulas in the entire category. Now that you know what to avoid, here are the 3 frozen pizzas that actually use real cheese. The 3 frozen pizzas worth buying. Amy's Cheese Pizza. Amy's built its entire brand on organic, recognizable ingredients, and the cheese pizza backs that up. The mozzarella is certified organic, sourced from cows raised without added hormones, and there's no modified starch or cheese blend filler anywhere on the label. The crust uses organic wheat flour with a short, clean ingredient list you can actually read in one glance. Sodium sits lower than most brands on this list, too. If you want a frozen pizza where cheese actually means cheese, this is the safest bet in the freezer aisle. Newman's Own Thin and Crispy Cheese Pizza. Newman's Own skips the shortcuts entirely, using 100% real mozzarella instead of a starch-stretched blend, and the crust stays thin enough that portion control feels natural instead of forced. The ingredient list reads like something you'd find in a home kitchen, not a food science lab. There's also a feel-good angle here. Proceeds from every purchase go toward the Newman's Own Foundation, which funds charitable causes. Between the honest cheese, the manageable sodium levels, and the mission behind the brand, it's a rare case where the marketing and the ingredients actually agree. Screamin' Sicilian Garlic Bread Pizza. This one's a smaller regional brand, so you won't find it everywhere, but it earns its spot for one simple reason. Whole milk mozzarella is the only cheese ingredient listed, with zero starch fillers or vague cheese blend language hiding behind it. The garlic bread style crust is brushed with real butter and garlic instead of artificial flavoring, giving it a taste that stands out from mass market competitors. It's proof that a smaller company without a massive marketing budget can still deliver a more honest ingredient list than brands 3 times its size. The pattern is clear. The cheaper the pizza, the more likely cheese is doing legal gymnastics on the label. Flip the box and check for mozzarella versus cheese blend before you buy. If this changed how you'll shop next time, hit like, subscribe for more food investigations, and tell us which pizza surprised you most.